Welcome back to the video series on Asian state practice in the domestic implementation of international law. We choose the first topic as ocean and territory. All states with marine and maritime interests need to ensure that domestic laws enable them to meet their obligations and to take advantage of the rights afforded to them under the international law of the sea. Among various achievements, this body of international law that support the unhindered transport of goods at sea and is the basis for states to assert their maritime territorial entitlements. Given that most states in Asia are littoral states and that Asia is home to two of the world's largest archipelages, this area of international law is of critical importance to the state in Asia. Their reliance on seaborne trade and marine resources and the presence of the particularly complex maritime areas with geographically overlapping assertions of the jurisdiction and disputed territorial claims to island and island groups make this area of the law all more significant. Let me touch upon the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea. The Law of the Sea is constructed around one of the most extensive and widely ratified international treaties. The treaty boasts 168 states and European Union as parties. The UNCLOS covers many topics areas ranging from defining various maritime jurisdiction zones to setting up marine environmental protection principles and the rules and providing for the conduct of the marine scientific research and developments and transfer of the marine technology and procedures for the settling disputes between state parties. Its provisions affect activities within all maritime sectors, such as fishing, maritime transport, defense and security, civil resources exploitation, and marine scientific research, tourism, and environmental protection. The United Nations Convention Law of the Sea is one of the most ambitious international treaties because it has set out the legal framework for all sea activities throughout the world. Its main contribution is that it provides for various zones of jurisdiction adjacent to coastal state and set out the prescriptive and enforcement the jurisdiction of the coastal states in them. The 9 maritime zones the UNCLOS has confirmed or created are critical to the activities of states at sea because there is a careful balancing of the rights of the coastal state with those of other states in the different zones. The coastal state has greater right in maritime zones in which it has full sovereignty, for example, that is internal waters, archipelagic waters, territorial sea, and to lesser degree to continuous zone than in zones in which it merely has sovereign rights, for example, the exclusive economic zone, EEZ, and the continental shelf. There also are zones that are beyond national jurisdiction, that is high seas, and the area, the seabed, ocean floor, and the subsoil beyond coastal state continental shelf or extended continental shelf, and a special regime is established for strait used for international navigation. There is a need for cooperation in several critical states and critical straits in Asia due to the differing views on jurisdiction, such as Tsushima Strait, Taiwan Strait, Bash Channel, and Malacca Strait. The various balance of interests that has been crafted into the UNCLOS text provide much scope for international disputes if states do not respect them in their activities and enforcement to conduct. Asian states face complex policy, regulation, and enforcement options. Let me touch upon the development law of the sea in Asia. The Asian state has had a considerable influence in the development of the law of the sea. Asia was the location of the critical maritime incidents that sparked the articulation of the competing, enduring concept of the freedom of the seas and coast. Asian states were instrumental in successfully advocating for a number of concepts that were to be entrenched in the modern law of the sea. Most notably, the 9-year-long drafting conference for the UNCLOS at the Third United Nations Conference for the Law of the Sea from the 1973 to 1982, so-called UNCLOS III, the Indonesia, the Philippines, and the Fiji advocated the need for recognition of the geographical circumstances of the state that are largely comprised of the archipelago. They submit the draft principles and articles on the law applicable to archipelagic states at UNCLOS III. Their advocacy eventually resulted in global acceptance of the new concept of the archipelagic states as enshrined in UNCLOS Articles 46 to 54. This included acceptance of the new maritime zone of the archipelagic waters and a unique passage regime through archipelagic sea lanes. The impetus for this concept was Indonesia's united claim to the island nation concept in 1957, in which it asserted that seas between islands are not open but are archipelagic seas with sovereign status. However, Indonesia's assertion and following acts of enacting legislation in 1960 to give effect to it were considered to violate international at the time and was not accepted at UNCLOS I and UNCLOS II. Yet Indonesia's persistent objection to international law not recognizing sovereignty of waters within the states constituted wholly by one or more archipelagos would eventually lead to success, supported in a large measure by the Philippines. Yet support was also provided by adjacent states Singapore and Malaysia, which did not oppose the concept as vehemently as the major maritime powers, and advocated successfully for specific provisions that would recognize a potentially wide range of the existing maritime activities in areas that would be closed as archipelagic waters. Other areas of leadership in the law of the sea include, for example, Malaysia-Singapore's contribution to discussions concerning the new region of passage through straits used for international navigation, including safety of navigation, and Malaysia's the advocacy to expand the concept of the continuous zone. Other areas of leadership in law of the sea include, again, for example, Singapore's contributions as part of the group of landlocked and geographically disadvantaged states at UNCLOS III, and Sri Lanka's contribution to highly technical matters concerning an appropriate exception to the method in Article 76 for determining the continental shelf beyond the 200 nautical mile from baselines as adopted as Annex 2 to the final act of the conference, entitled "A Statement of the Understanding Concerning a Specific Method to be Used in Establishing the Outer Edge of the Continental Margin." Asian states have shown interest in benefiting from the process for conforming extended continental shelves with full or partial submission to the Commission for the limits of the continental shelf by, in order for, the first or only submission, for example, Indonesia, the Japan, the Myanmar, the Philippines, Pakistan, Malaysia, together with the Vietnam and Sri Lanka, India, and Maldives, the Bangladesh, China, and South Korea and Malaysia. Some South Asian states have been strong advocates for the use of the third-party resolution mechanisms for law of the sea matters, while there is virtually no example in Northeast Asia. Further, Asian states have been instrumental in adopting the practical measures to put aside territorial dispute, such as the use of joint development zones, with Malaysia and Vietnam cooperating to the extent of the making a joint submission to the United Nations Commission for the limits of the continental shelf, in short term is a CLCS. There has been a tendency for Asian states to maritime security matters seriously, such as adopting more exacting requirements for the exercise of the innocent passage by warships, and the ability of coastal states to preclude foreign military exercise in their exclusive economic zones. Nevertheless, a number of Asian states have not established the continuous zones, which provide a further security buffer 12 to 24 nautical miles beyond the territorial sea baselines. Some state parties and some state practice appears to be not as intended by the drafters of the UNCLOS, such as Malaysia exercising continuous zone powers without having claimed the zone, and Iran utilized broad continuous zone powers than provided for in Article 33 of UNCLOS. Overall, the UNCLOS enjoys an enormous number of ratifications in Asia, which only a few non-parties, for example, Cambodia, North Korea, Taiwan, and the Central Asia landlocked states of the Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, and Turkmenistan and Uzbekistan. Landlocked states such as Laos and Mongolia and Nepal has also recognized the benefits of the treaty membership by becoming a party to UNCLOS. Indeed, Mongolia is noteworthy for having an international ship registry. A major achievement of the UNCLOS is afford special protection to landlocked states for right to access the sea. However, there is a lack of specificity in UNCLOS provision on how this will be achieved. There are a significant number of landlocked states in Asia. Access for these states to marine resources or benefits of their exploitation is very critical. Thank you very much for your very kind attention.